Welcome to the Every Brain is Different podcast. It is Samantha and Lauren with you today, and we are talking about going back to school. My kids started back to school yesterday, and it was a very exciting day for my kindergartner. Not so exciting day for my older son, but we made it through, and that's
Was
cool.
was it an exciting day for you?
It was an exciting day for me, except I'm so sad because my daughter's in kindergarten, and I did not get to see her go on the bus for the first time. And I was very sad about that because the bus came 20 minutes early while I was in the shower. I was like, oh, I got
Oh
loads of
no.
time. I'm fine. And then my husband came in. He said, the kids are gone. And I was like, the kids are what?
Just
And yeah.
pretend just pretend the next day was the
So,
first.
well, today I walked her out to the bus and I was like, got her on the bus and pretended like it was the first day of school. So it's fine. Everything is fine. But last week, her teacher sent out this thing that I thought was genius about how to get ready for the first day of school. So if you have not gone to school yet, you're not crazy like my school district is going back to school like super early. I feel like when I was in school, we didn't go back to school till the end of August, and now they're going
Yeah.
back to school like way earlier. And I'm like, what is happening?
I think with Idaho and why don't they do it after the fair?
I
Doesn't make
know.
any sense.
I know.
Oh,
They have the state fair, it's like the week of the 21st, and
yeah.
there's all these kids that are in the fair, but then they have school. I'm like, why don't you
Yeah.
just wait till after the fair? I don't understand.
And it's such a big thing for the area. And
Yeah.
so like, it just I feel like it used to be like that, but
I remember when I was in sixth grade, I only remember this because I went to an NSYNC concert at the fair. They started school that week. But it's a lot different starting school on a Wednesday or Thursday the week of the fair rather than going the whole week and have already been in school for 2 or 3 weeks before the fair starts.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that though, because I thought I was so cool because I started middle school and then I went to an NSYNC concert and it was my first concert and thought I was so cool. I had my new school clothes. I was dying of heat because my mom buys me clothes for the fall and winter, but you start school when it's summer. I was wearing like this sweater thing in the middle of summer at the fair outside. I'm like, what am I doing? But I thought I was legit. But yeah, I think that schools should start in September after Labor Day and get done before Memorial Day. At the very least, start, especially, okay, in Idaho, because Idaho weather is not that great in May, beginning of June, but it's fantastic in August.
Yeah.
So why don't
It's
they
probably the
start
best.
later? And then I'm okay with them getting out after Memorial Day. But everyone's, no, we have to get out before Memorial Day. So
I never
whatever.
used to go until the middle of June
Yeah.
back in the good old
Yeah. We sound old. We sound
I
like old
know.
people.
We are.
But I was not ready for my summer adventures to end with my family. But I think my kids were. And that is something important that I want to talk about. Like I had my summer of yes. And I did way too much with my children. They, I realized after we had done too much, I pulled it back. But it's important to watch your kids. And even if it means you don't get to do some things, I think your kid's nervous system is a little more important than missing out on an activity that you
Yeah.
thought would be fun. And I'm saying this for my own benefit. I'm saying this to remind myself of that because I was like, I don't want to miss out on that. And I love going and doing things, but my kids' nervous systems were just not okay after, especially after those 2 weeks in July where we just did way too much stuff. So next summer, I will be doing things differently. And during the school year, I will be doing things differently and not cramming so much in on every weekend. I am the epitome, though, of FOMO. I have had it my whole
Yes.
life. I have an intense fear of missing out. And not like a fear, like I'm always worried about missing out and I'm always worried about not living life to the fullest and whatever. But I realize that living life to the fullest also means having a self-regulated nervous system, which my kids do not have if they don't get enough time at home. And they're going to school now, so they're out of the house more, so they need even more time at home, which is going to be very hard for me, but I can do it. I believe in myself. So if you needed to hear that, I don't know if you did, but it just came up for me, so maybe you needed to hear that too. It's okay to stay home on a Saturday or a Sunday or the whole weekend. It's okay to stay home for the whole weekend and not do anything
You
to
can
get,
get burned out from the
yeah,
fun stuff too.
yeah,
So
yeah. I am an extrovert and I love going out, but I think my kids are introverts. And my husband definitely is. My
yeah,
husband didn't even want to do anything on his birthday when we got home.
yeah,
And he was like, I just want to be home. And I was like, "Oh, we are not the same." But that's okay. That's okay. And I can get a babysitter for my kids if they need to stay home. I can stay home with them. My husband can stay home with them. There's a lot of different options to get my needs fulfilled and also theirs, I have discovered. So that is
it's
my goal going into the school year. And that is one of the things that you can do to help your kids get ready for school. That's what we're talking about today is getting your kids ready for school, is planning out a schedule, like planning out a schedule that works for them. Don't jam pack everything. Don't put them in a million activities if what they need is just to be home after school. Just being home is okay. Even if they get home and you're like, oh, they've been at school all day. I want to make memories with them. Like, you don't have to make memories every day. You can just let them come home, have screen time for a while, regulate, like decompress how they need to decompress, and honor what they need to do. So make a plan for that. How are you going to support your kids' nervous systems while they're in school?
especially if you're going from a less indifferent structure to a more intense regulated
Yeah, especially if
structure
you
that
have
is
if you had a pretty fluid summer and now they're all of a sudden they're in school, like definitely still have structure, but give them more freedom in what they decide to do. And like my son goes to his room and plays with Legos for hours and does not come out. That's what he needs to regulate his body. That's cool. Like, I need to respect that and I need to not talk to him and so forth. So, yeah. The second thing is to build excitement about going to school. So you can do this leading up to school. You can talk about what they're going to be doing at school, what their favorite thing is, what they're looking forward to. So if they're really excited to see their friends again, because maybe they haven't seen them over the summer, then talk about how exciting it is going to be to see their friends. If they're not, super into social stuff, talk about what they're going to learn, talk about recess, talk about if they really like PE or they really like music. I know kids that are really into band, and so they're really excited to get back into band because they didn't have that over the summer. So build up the excitement, talk about the things that they're looking forward to. If they say, I don't like school, I don't want to go to school, there's nothing to look forward to, there is something, at least one thing that all kids like about school. There has to be at least one thing. If they're social, it's the friends. If they're not social, maybe it's going to the library, maybe it's band, maybe it's choir, maybe it's PE. There is something that all kids like about school. It just depends on the kid. But talk it up and then talk about things that they might not like and talk about coping skills to get through those things or what they're going to do. For example, if they go to music class and it's too loud, what can we do in music class to make it less loud? Do you have noise canceling headphones? Are you placed not near the speaker? Are you away from the loudest instruments if you're in band? Stuff like that.
I like that going over like the coping skills that maybe we haven't had to use for the summer and just like reminding them of maybe situations that have happened in the past at school and how to overcome them and cope with them. So I think that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, if they bring up like, oh, I'm worried about this. Like my daughter was like, what if I can't find the lunchroom? What if I try to go in the school and the door is locked? What if I don't know where to go for recess? What if I don't know where to go to line up? She's very worried about not knowing where things were. And I said, then you ask a teacher. Then you ask another student. then you push the button that you have to do. Like if the door is locked, you push the button that alerts the teacher that you need to be let in, stuff like that. But yeah, if they're fearful of anything, go through their fears and tell them, make a plan of what they're going to do when they have something come up that maybe they're a little bit afraid of or not that excited about. Hey everyone, Samantha here, and I'm thrilled to invite you to join me for something special, the Parenting Power Hour. This is your chance, parents of neurodivergent kids, to bring your questions directly to me and fellow parents in the room. We're here to help you develop actionable plans that really work so you can finally stop the meltdowns and find peace in your home. As a mom to 3 kids with ADHD and autism, I've seen and been through the challenges too. So trust me, we'll find solutions together that fit your family. Don't miss out on the Parenting Power Hour. It's a free online monthly gathering every second Thursday of the month from 12:45 to 1:45 Mountain Standard Time. Visit everybrainisdifferent.com to reserve your spot today. And then the next thing is have your child pick out their school supplies. So if they're getting a new backpack, none of my kids wanted a new backpack this year. I offered to buy them one and they're like,
That's
no.
like the best part of school is when you got a new backpack. I'm a backpack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I look forward to picking out my backpack every year. And I ask all of them and they're like, no, we're good with the ones we have. And I'm like, okay.
they're
But yeah,
gonna save you money.
I know. I appreciate it. I'm not complaining, but I just thought it was so funny. But yeah, pick out the school supplies that they're going to use and then talk about if the teacher is going to put them for communal use or if they get their own supplies. Because I know that varies by classroom. Like in one classroom at my kid's school, the teacher wants all their supplies labeled. In another classroom, the only thing that they get to keep that's their own is their pencil box. And then all the other supplies are going into a big thing and you're just picking them out as needed. So make sure that they know what's going to happen with their supplies before they get to school. Because if they were planning on having their crayons that they picked out, you're gonna want to prepare them that they're not going to have those crayons.
That's such a good. I never would have thought about that, but that's legit, especially if you have children like their things are theirs. And I think that's really smart.
Yeah, last year I labeled all my kids' stuff and then most of it went into communal stuff and I did not realize that. And so they were very sad when their stuff went in with everybody else's. The teachers usually say that, like they'll send out a letter, like I got emails this year saying, this is how our class runs. I want all your stuff labeled. I don't want your stuff labeled. And then I prepared my kids for what their teacher wanted. Or we also looked at the class lists of what supplies were needed and I had to prepare my older kid that he wasn't going to get as many supplies as my middle kid because his teacher didn't want those supplies in the classroom. Where my middle son, his teacher wanted all the supplies in the classroom. So just preparing them that things might look different than it's looked in the past because every year you might need different supplies depending on the grade you're in, and it's not going to look like their siblings if their siblings are in different grades. That's something else you can do to prepare your kid. And
Little things.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then the next thing is if they're bringing a lunch to school every day, I would start having them practice eating their lunch, getting their lunch out of their lunchbox before they go to school. So you can make sure that they can open everything, that they're going to eat everything, that they're not just going to open it and then throw it away. Because my mom works at a school. She said it's super frustrating when parents pack stuff that their kids can't open themselves because she doesn't have enough time to go around opening everyone's stuff. And by the time she opens everything, the kids don't have enough time to eat it. And so the kids don't get a lot of time to eat lunch. And so if you can have things that they can open themselves, then that helps so they don't take as much time waiting for someone to open something. And then what was the other thing? Oh, and then they're also practicing this is what we're going to be eating for lunch. This is the expectations. I went to McDonald's a few weeks ago and I was just sitting there eating with my kids, and I heard this mom say, "You need to practice eating lunch in 15 minutes because that's what's going to happen when you go to school. They're going to time you, and you don't get more than 15 minutes." The kid looked at her and said, "That is not enough time. I need more time." And she said, "They don't give you more time, so we need to practice this." And she was practicing eating lunch in 15 minutes because that is what her school, that's what most schools I feel like give your kids. And you can debate whether that's enough time or not, but that's
That's
what it
enough.
is. That's what it is. And so you have to get your kid to be able to focus and concentrate to eat their lunch in that 15 minutes so they're not starving or causing issues or having a meltdown because I wasn't ready yet. So
Yeah,
I would practice. If your kids have a hard time, I would practice eating lunch in 15 minutes and really training them to focus and eat.
I love this. I recently watched multiple videos from educators specifically about lunch and kids not being able to open things or like sending things that like require microwave, blah blah, because there's a limited amount of adults to be managing and making sure people get fed. So even if you have to repackage a few things, but practicing making sure they can open stuff and eating in a certain time frame, I think that's all really good advice.
Yeah, and I think one thing to watch out for, my mom said Capri Suns or those pouch drinks. If your child cannot put the straw in, do not send it to school
Yeah, that
or
was one of the
practice
bigger
doing that.
things.
That's one of the things that like I hear the most is do not send those to school unless you know your kid can reliably put the straw in. And I don't think parents think about that because they're just like, oh, my kid does well. They like those. And I'm not blaming parents. You just don't think about what you actually do for your kid. And so just give them their lunchbox. They have to open their lunchbox. They have to open everything in it and see if they can do it and eat it all in 15 minutes. That's a good trial run to do. And if they can't, then you have time to figure things out. The next suggestion is to attend events before school starts. So my school had like cookies for kindergartners, and then they had Meet the Teacher Day, and I think they had another event too, where you could just come and see how the school, like you can tour the school, you can drop off your school supplies so you're not carrying them all on the first day. You can meet your teacher so you're familiar with your teacher before school starts. Just attend those events because I think it really puts kids' minds at ease, especially kids who get
Anxious.
anxiety, like not knowing what's going to
Yeah.
happen. You can say, okay, here's where you go in the morning before you go into class. Here's where you can play. Here's where you line up. Here's where you go inside. Here's where PE is. Here's where music is. Here's where lunch is. I realized when my daughter was freaking out about not knowing where the lunchroom was, she didn't know that the lunchroom and the gym were the same thing because we had been to the gym several times, but she didn't realize that they also serve lunch there. And so saying those kinds of things like in this room, you are going to have lunch. You are also going to do gym. You are also going to do like choir performances or
Assemblies.
band performances or assemblies in this room. And so just letting them know everything that happens in a multi-purpose room can really help their fears and anxiety. And then the last thing is just make sure that your child is where they're at to succeed in school. So going into kindergarten, can they write their name? Can they recognize their name? That was just a big thing that I hear all the time. And if they can't, don't stress it, but tell the teacher, like, oh, we're working on writing their name. This is where we're at. And just let them know where you're at, because I know that kids are all different levels. But if at all possible, I've heard this from many teachers, like, before your kid goes into kindergarten, have them be able to write their name or at least their initials.
It's like
So,
a foundation of everything
yeah,
else
yeah.
to come.
Yeah, and so there's other guidelines that they say your kid should know before going into school. I've just heard that one multiple times, like at least be able to write their name or their initials, and it will make everything a lot easier. But yeah, but those are the suggestions that I have. based on my experience and this handy dandy document that my daughter's teacher sent us. So it's build excitement about school, and then offer coping skills, talk about coping skills for things that are stressful for your kid or that they're not quite sure about, they're anxious, whatever, and then have your child pick out their supplies. Also tell them if they're going to be able to use their own supplies or they're going to have to, like, all the supplies are going to go in a communal
You're gonna have
place.
to share.
You're going to have to share. Yeah. Are they going to use their own supplies or do they have to share? And then practice eating lunch. I know that's a really hard one for some kids. And then plan to attend any before school activities. So like cookies with the teacher, meeting the teacher, taking your stuff and dropping it off before school starts. And then help your child write their name or do other things that maybe are suggested before entering the grade that they're in. Yeah, I hope everyone has an awesome back to school time and that everything goes smoothly and your kids love school. If they don't, if you're experiencing issues, if you would like to talk about issues, if you want to talk about parenting, you can join our parenting membership where it's just a community of parents and me and we come together and we talk about things. You can talk about things individually with me. You can come to the group things. I have a course on there. But yeah, go to everybrainisdifferent.com to find more information about that and let us know how the start to the school year goes.
Remember, you're not alone.
Yes, you're not alone. And okay, one thing before we go. I have been feeling like a failure as a mom lately because I've been very overstimulated by other things, and my kids have been super anxious for school starting. And so that's caused some behavioral issues because when you're anxious, you're generally defiant. It comes out as defiance because you're like in fight or flight, right? And so I have been like, nothing works. I'm a terrible mother. I don't know what I'm doing, all of that. And one of my friends told me something very important today. She said she has grown kids, and she's like, when I started feeling like that, because every parent will feel like that, things that were working in your parenting journey at one point, your kid's going to change and you're going to have to figure something else out. And so I think that's where I'm at in my parenting journey right now is we're trying to figure some other things out. And she said, just love them. Just let your kids know that they are loved, that you're working on it, and just love them for who they are and parent the child that you have. And that's what I'm trying to do. Like, my kids are not really the reason why I'm overstimulated right now, but because I'm overstimulated by other things, it's making my fuse shorter. And I just have to remember just to love my kids as they are, to love myself and give myself grace. Also, if you needed to hear it, that's your daily
Well
reminder.
said.
I don't know. I have not been feeling like a spectacular parent lately. But just remember, every parent does that. You can be the most perfect parent on the planet, but you can still feel like that. You can still feel like you're a terrible parent. You might be the best parent ever, and you can still feel like a terrible parent. It's just what happens because we're so hard on ourselves, especially when we have kids who are neurodivergent and we're comparing ourselves to parents of kids who are neurotypical. Definitely kids who are neurotypical also present challenges. I just think it's harder, not harder. I think it's hard when you're comparing your parenting style and your kid to someone who has totally different way of thinking and doing things. You can't, it's like apples and oranges. You can't compare them and just do you, love your kid, parent the kid you have, and be kind to yourself. So I feel like I'm being Post Malone right now. I went to his concert and he was just so like giving motivational speeches
Positive.
all the time. And the more the concert went on, the longer the concert went on, the more motivational he would get. And I feel like that's how I am in this podcast today. But anyone needed those words of encouragement, there you go. Maybe it was just for me. But I hope you all have a great August and back to school goes well. So we will see you next week.